Hey everyone, what's the crack? Lawrence here with another MOZA product, this time the MOZA R9, their mid-range product. Let's get this mounted to the rig, first impressions, all that jazz today. Let's do it. So it's absolutely blows my mind that these boxes for these direct drive wheels are just getting smaller and smaller. Yeah, pretty crazy. Now this is just the box for the direct drive base itself. Of course the R5 has the pedals and everything. It's a bundle and a steering wheel and everything, has it all included. So with this, we've just got the wheelbase itself. So let's get this unboxed anyway, and then we'll have a look at which steering wheel we'll put on it. I must say their packaging is really nice. MOZA put a lot of effort into their packaging. Got some sticker sheets and stuff like that. I love these because when I send out stuff to people on Patreon and stuff like that, I like to include some of these stickers and stuff. Little manual in there. Generally, these devices are so intuitive that you don't even need to access those manuals. We've got a USB cable here. Got a power lead here, kettle lead, just standard kettle lead. Let's take this out. Again, they're using this foam that's you know, not great for the environment, but it is very, very effective for packaging stuff like this. We've got our power block in here. Let's have a quick look at the power block, see what kind of, oh, that's kind of cool. Their power block has a little MOZA logo on it as well, which is quite interesting. And this is a 180 watt adapter. As I say, usually for about 15 Newton meters of torque, you tend to see like a 360 watt. And we saw with the R5, I think, was that a 90 watt? I'm not 100% sure what that was. But yeah, 180 watt power supply there. It's pretty cool that it has a MOZA logo on there, and it looks like that lights up as well. If you're into that type of thing, I tend to hide those away, even though I am mad about backlighting. I love a bit of backlighting. Let's pull this out. There we go. They all come presented in these bags as well, which is very cool, very much the done thing. Look at that. So first impression, you can feel the cool bits here are where the, so it doesn't have a fan. A lot of these direct drive wheelbases don't have a fan built into them. They're passively cooled. The front plate is also metal. The back plate here looks to be plastic. It's got the MOZA on the side here, and on the back we've got the dash connection, the e-stop, USB, and the DC input. So I don't have an emergency stop. With a wheelbase like this, generally, I've never really had a need for the emergency stop, and the software tends to be good enough that you never get any of those crazy jolts. MOZA has a very refined software package. As I'm moving this, I can feel a little bit, I can kind of feel some steps and stuff, but you can never tell for sure. I don't know what the architecture of the motor is. I never really get too deep into that type of stuff, because for me, all that really matters is how it feels. And when I'm doing that, I can feel just some slight, like a cogging, almost like a stepper type of thing. So I'm not sure if it is a stepper motor. Right now, I don't care. It's all about how it feels. Just letting you guys know my first impressions. On the front, we see this pattern, same as the R16. So different to the R9. Same as the R16. It looks like there's a power LED on the front here. The shaft is longer, giggity. The shaft is longer than it is on the R5. Let's actually grab the R5 and let's put it side by side. So here we go, the R5 and the R9 next to each other. The R5 has a similar feeling, but you can see the shaft is way, way shorter on the R5. But they're still very, very small. The footprint of this is really nice. It's very, very small. What have we, 13 centimeters? And then the shaft is an extra 11 centimeters, maybe 10.5 centimeters. And the R5, 10 centimeters. And the shaft is only about 6.5 centimeters, something like that. So considerably smaller with the R5 and then the R9. Of course, with the CSL-DD, which I also have in a box here, but I haven't reviewed yet. I don't have steering wheels for it yet, so they're on the way. With the CSL-DD, you get a larger motor, but you get the different power supply, which brings basically roughly this power up to this power. This is 5 Newton meters, 9 Newton meters. The CSLDD goes from 5 Newton meters up to 8 Newton meters. So that is going to be the main competitor for the CSLDD. Most people get that power upgrade kit, but at an entry level, the R5 is a super device, but this video is all about the R9. This is the mid-range steering wheel that they offer. This is the CS, the smaller one that the R5 has. It's a smaller diameter as well. That is the ES. So this is the CS. Let's take this out of the box, have a look at this, see what it's like. Grab it out like this. The foam part seems to be on the top here, yeah. There we go. Grab this out, pull the box aside. We do have some stickers in here and stuff. So we've got a sticker sheet and a manual. So if you do like applying stickers, MOZA allow you to apply those like that. And let's get rid of the foam here. Have a quick look at this. We've got a little bit of, we've got some mounting hardware here, some small few little spacer pieces, maybe for the shifters. They're little metal pieces, I think, and a little Allen key. So let's put that aside. And there's an extra little foam piece here. Not sure, I haven't seen that before. Maybe that's just part of the overall larger foam piece. But let's pull this out. Oh wow, okay. All right. Really soft, like very, very soft. Yeah, leather. It seems like a fake leather, like a pleather type of material, and I'm perfectly okay with that, to be honest. I really don't care. The buttons feel nice. They're not backlit like we see with the RS V2 wheel. Those rotaries are really nice. Wow, they remind me very much of like old school hi-fi knobs. They've got the what's it called? There's a weird name for when it's knurled. They're knurled at the edges, so they can get nice grip on them. But they're gorgeous. They're really nice. I'm surprised by those. I'm not sure. Do I prefer those to the? I think I might prefer these to the new RS V2 ones. I'm not sure. That's maybe a little bit early to make that kind of a claim. But the directional hats, they're fine. They're very similar to the MOZA V1 ones. And the buttons are similar to the MOZA V1 buttons as well. They might be slightly smaller, but they have a nice feel to them. I love that they're black. Black and white, winning combo. You've got less buttons than you have on the RS and on the ES even. I might actually grab the ES in a minute and just compare them side by side. But this is the steering wheel that I would use, or that I would expect people to go with on the R9. So here is the ES steering wheel beside the CS steering wheel. You can see massive size difference. So you can see instantly there's just a huge difference. One thing that you will notice is that you get far more buttons on the ES. So that's interesting. You don't get a horn button like you got with the RS V1, and we saw the RS V2 actually doesn't have that horn button either. You've got no directional hats on this is the R5 steering wheel, by the way. Those of you who are not familiar, I know it can get a little bit confusing. I'm trying to remember all the names myself. And that's one thing we have to give it, hats off to MOZA for creating an ecosystem. Every single provider of this hardware wants to create an ecosystem, and that means different things to different people. But when it comes to steering wheels and pedals, MOZA has a very complete range. Obviously, we'd love to see more from them, like shifters, handbrakes, stuff like that, to properly get that full ecosystem going. But they're doing an amazing job with so many steering wheel offerings, really kind of putting it up to the likes of Fanatec and that. The materials, the stitching, they're very nice. This doesn't feel like the generic steering wheel that we would have gotten on the V1 MOZA rim, the RS rim, and this, yeah, it's really nice. I prefer this to the V1 MOZA rim, I think. Even with those rotaries, yeah, I like the rotaries on the V1 MOZA rim. These 5-way hats don't do any rotation at all, but yeah, very nice. Let's have a quick look at the shifters. The shifters are crushed carbon, and they're quite nice. This looks very like the housing for the V1 and V2 RS wheels as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if they've just used the exact same housing and limited the functionality somewhat. Now, the only limitation in functionality really is few less buttons. And I can grab the V2 steering wheel in just a moment. We've got no clutch paddles on the back, but you may be able, I'm not sure if you can add them. You've got holes in the housing, all right. Those shifters feel nice. Yeah, nothing to complain. They're quite clicky. Nothing to complain about with those. Clicky shifters like this, if they bother you, they're so easy to make not clicky. All you do is put a little bit of dampening, a little bit of rubber tape or whatever in there, or even an elastic band, recalibrate them, and then you're good to go. These are, they use Hall sensors and stuff, so there are no moving parts there. You can recalibrate them at any stage. It's not like you're pressing a switch and you can't press that switch anymore. It's, yeah, very, very easy to calibrate. And as you can see, there's quite a lot of travel on there as well. And the black Cuyar looks quite nice as well. Let's grab that V2 rim. So let's set the ES rim aside for now and compare the two 330mm offerings. 330. I know people are going to say in the comments 330, make fun of the accents. Why not? You're allowed. You're allowed. You get a free pass on this one because I know I'm saying 330 a lot. So we've got the kind of more old school, the retro style MOZA logo here, and the MOZA Racing and the crushed carbon. The crushed carbon everywhere here. The little fascia on the CS wheel is a brushed aluminium. So we get the crushed carbon on the RS wheel. We get those backlit buttons as well. You've got some yellow accents on here. Some people might prefer the white accent. Some of the labels on here, like reverse, camera, glance, menu. You've got some of those on here as well. Brake bias, traction control. The buttons themselves don't have any stickers on them or anything like that. And the backlit ones on the V2, they do have stuff written on them, but generally it's pretty generic stuff like S2, RP, FL. So you can kind of make it whatever you like. As for the rotaries, yeah, I prefer the rotaries on the CS. They are absolutely lovely. They're so nice. This just looks like, this is retro styling in sim racing, in my opinion, done right. I think this looks just, it looks very, very cool. Now, this looks beautiful as well, but these knobs, if I could put those on here, maybe have a little yellow accent on there. Yeah, gorgeous. Absolutely, really, really nice. Of course, we've got clutch paddles on the V2 as well. Clutch paddles are very handy for when you're doing standing starts. I'm a huge fan of them, and I generally, if I buy a steering wheel, I look for one with clutch paddles on it. You don't get that with the CS wheel. You can, of course, upgrade to the RS V2, and the RS V2 is compatible with the R9 and everything above it. It's just not compatible with the R5. So they're all things that you need to consider, and I will examine the compatibility in more detail, but I think MOZA actually has compatibility charts on their website and stuff. So that's just a brief comparison of these. This is about the CS wheel. You've got a little rev gauge in here as well. I'm not sure if I actually mentioned that. This is not necessarily to compare them to a large extent. This is more just to show you the CS wheel that we're going to be using with the R9. So that's the decision, running the CS wheel with the R9. Let's get it on the rig, let's get it all installed and see what it's like, get the first impressions. Right, so here we are in the rig. The MOZA R9 was very easy to mount. It was similar to the R16, and that's the standard Fanatec mounting pattern. When I did install it, I had some minor issues. Firstly, there was like a clicking. So when I take the steering wheel off, you see the little light flashes, but it actually has a clicking noise. It's too distant to pick up on here, but yeah, it was very, very weird. It turns out that all you have to do is connect the steering wheel, which is fine. But another issue that I had, which I guess initially I thought was related, was that my MOZA software just didn't give me anything on the menu. All the pages were blank on it. I reinstalled it, nothing. Eventually I figured out that uninstalling it, so I uninstalled it completely. Then I restarted the computer and installed it again, and it seemed to be okay again. So that was, if anybody does face that, that was that.
The form factor is really nice. I had the R5 on here before, so it actually sits exactly like the R5 would. It has the same dimensions from this point of view. It's slightly deeper, and the shaft is slightly longer as well. And the steering wheel. I did try the steering wheel on the R5 briefly, but it was just a little bit too heavy. So one of the things that I'm looking out for in my first impressions here is, how well can this actually move this around. So as with the MOZA R5 and the R16, this all feels very familiar. You've got all the adjustability that you could want in here. I was able to make the R5 feel very good, so I've got a high level of confidence with this R9. It looks to be like the same motor and stuff like that, just more, I guess, just stronger. We've got this force feedback equalizer, which I went through in previous review videos as well, and it allows you to visually if you want the ABS, for example, is around 25 hertz. It's not entirely accurate, but it is fun to mess around with, and for some people this will give them the exact effects that they're looking for. So that's nice. The steering wheel itself, we've got no backlighting. We've only got the LED strip here, which is fine as well. You can completely customize that LED strip and the brightness of it as well. So one of the things about the MOZA directional hats is that they actually don't have a strict up, down, left, right click, so you can kind of move them around in a circle. It's a little bit weird. It's a little bit kind of odd. You don't fully know if you've clicked up, especially if you're wearing gloves. So it's not something that I'm a huge fan of, but it is functional. It does work. So that's something to bear in mind. I have no pedals connected. I have no screen connected. So relatively simple. Let's get into the game. I'm coming straight from the R5, so I should see a significant jump up from the R5. That is the goal. So here we go. So far, not a hell of a lot. I have 100% in-game force feedback. I have 100% in the app as well. Doesn't feel too heavy, but let's see what it's like when we get out on track here. Okay, a little bit of force there. Okay, yeah, that's nice. That's nice. Ooh. Takes a little bit of getting used to. There's a slight elasticity to the force feedback. I can't really explain it. It's a little bit like it's not a notch. Well, maybe it is a notch. I'm not sure, but there's a slight bounciness to it. Maybe that's something that can be tweaked out. I kind of expected a little bit more force coming from the R5. I expected it to be quite significantly different. It's quite similar, but I think that the smaller steering wheel diameter on the R5 makes that seem more powerful than it is. So that begs the question, is a 330mm rim, is it maybe a little bit too big? I don't know. I'm speculating. I don't want to put ideas in people's heads here. But I'm just wondering if this is strong enough for a 330mm rig steering wheel like the CS wheel here. It does feel good, but there's just a slight numbness to it. It loaded up nicely there. It does load up. The definition is definitely it definitely tries to give you that definition, and it's like if you're not used to a lot of force, it definitely is a lot of force. As I'm driving here, it's actually becoming easier and easier. Maybe because I've just spent the last few weeks driving with a smaller steering wheel. Maybe that's the reason this feels a little bit alien right now. But yeah, I was able to catch that slide there. That's a kind of a dodgy slide there when you get up over that bump. feels pretty good. Yeah, like I've no doubt, and this is kind of different to, and this is one of those first impressions videos where, you know, to an extent, it's not my first impression, if you get what I'm saying, because I'm familiar with the software. I'm familiar with what definition to expect. I think this is just a more powerful, I do feel it now. I feel that it has more power than the R5, and I do have to get used to, I just have to get used to that steering wheel. Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to cheat slightly here. I don't usually do this in a first impressions video. I'm just going to pull over and I'm going to throw on the, when I take off the steering wheel, that goes absolutely bonkers there. So I'm going to have to pause this. There we go. And there we go. Let's pop that on there like that. Let's see. Okay, that's one really nice thing about the MOZA ecosystem, is that the buttons and stuff like the shifters there, they're already mapped. So let's give this a go now. Yeah, like you can probably even visually, you can probably see that I'm already getting more feedback there. I don't know what the diameter on this is. It's also a significantly lighter steering wheel, but that feels excellent. The rumbles going up over those bumps is like, there's a very specific reason why I choose this track for my force feedback reviews, and immediately I'm getting that's just my poor braking. Immediately I'm getting a hell of a lot more through the steering wheel. So I wonder, is it just that CS wheel that's just a little bit large? Okay, that feels really nice now. I mean, it's a 9 Newton meter torque steering wheel, so it's not, you know, it's very much a mid-range steering wheel. Let's see what the force feedback is like here. Yeah, oh, it's perfect. Yeah, it's lovely. Those details are excellent. Those details are, the loading up of the suspension there is exactly what I expect from a high-end experience. The amount of torque on offer here is slightly limited, but at this price point, you know, there is better force feedback. You know, if somebody buys this, it may not be their forever wheel. Now that said, I'm used to a lot of like very it's. I just have to on that back straight. There are some bumps, and the way this conveys the bumps, like, I mean, I don't know, is that just a good reflection on the steering wheel itself, or is it the wheelbase? The way it's declaring those bumps and transmitting them to me, I feel like the steering column's going up and down. It really feels like there's something moving. So, excellent job on that front. The force feedback is really pleasant to use. So, I'm definitely looking forward to my time with the steering wheel now. Let's go again down the hill section here. Absolutely flat out. Grab a bit of curb. So much being sent to the front wheels there. Excellent. Like, you can just put it on the edge of grip. You can feel all of these bumps, and I'll show you that bump on the back straight in just a moment that I meant. And keep an eye on the steering wheel, because here, keep an eye on the steering wheel just when it straightens up here. Watch what happens when we go over these bumps. See that is, like, maybe you guys can't see it, but there on those bumps, it's very, very realistic. And I'm not running my butt kickers at the moment. I often just don't run, you know, my tactile transducers and stuff like that when it comes to reviewing hardware like this, so that I can properly feel exactly what's happening. And that's gorgeous. Let's switch back to the CS steering wheel. See if it. Oh, maybe don't put it in reverse going around the corner. Let's switch back to that CS steering wheel and have a look to see if the weight difference is, it's significant. Like, that weighs probably twice as much as the GS wheel. So there's a huge amount of weight in this, and I think it's too much weight. I think it's too much weight for this wheelbase. I think you really need at least 11 or 12 newton meters to spin around something like this really quickly. Yeah, there's a slight vagueness by comparison, although you can feel a lot. Like, I can feel the compression and decompression. All of the things that a setup horse is very good at translating this MOZA, the MOZA firmware. I know that it can pick all that up. Maybe that's why I was a little bit surprised at the start. Let's see how it goes down the straight here on these bumps. See how much I get. I get some rumbling. It's not as intense. Yeah, it's nice, but it's not as intense as it was with the GS wheel. I'm getting a bit more used to it though, so it's definitely usable. It's not as blocking as it was at the start. So yeah, like, I'm convinced with the R16 force feedback was amazing. Like, plenty of power, absolutely excellent. The R5 with that 280mm steering wheel, absolutely excellent. Like, what a great price point that's at. I'd love to see like a 300mm steering wheel for this now. For this maybe, I'm not sure. The rotaries on this, I know I mentioned it already, but these rotaries are absolutely glorious, and I would go as far as to say that these rotaries are the best rotaries on any sim racing steering wheel that I've ever used. They're like a 90s amplifier. They're absolutely gorgeous. They're just so nice. The buttons feel good as well. Changing the view there. Yeah, nice. A nice click to them, nice feel to them. It's a shame there's no, backlighting and stuff like that, but that's how they keep the pricing down. You get the retro MOZA logo on the middle of it. The shifters are a crushed carbon shifter, and they feel good. They're not dissimilar to the RS wheel. They feel quite similar. Yeah, nothing major to report on that. The feel of the steering wheel is also nice. MOZA has improved over those, those kind of more generic steering wheels with the yellow stitching that they had at the start. The same ones that Samagic used, ImSource used them, Camus used them. It looks like MOZA is going with a slightly more luxurious, slightly more bespoke kind of a look. So that's really cool. So there we have it, the MOZA R9 first impressions. It's always difficult to do a first impressions video where I have used very similar hardware. So I've used the R5, I've used the R16. This R9 sits bang in the middle. It was very easy to install, had some minor software hiccups at the start, but that may not be related to the wheelbase. It is MOZA software though. The form factor is great. This steering wheel is absolutely lovely as well. The CS steering wheel. I did find that using the GS steering wheel gave me a hell of a lot more of that 9 Newton meters of torque. So my worry is that the CS steering wheel is extremely heavy. There's a lot of weight in it. So that's my main worry with it. With a 9 Newton meter wheelbase, I think that if you are getting the CS wheel, just be aware that it's quite heavy, it's quite clunky, and the 9 Newton meter steering wheel struggles with it a bit. Without giving away spoilers about my review of this, this is an excellent piece of kit. It's a stunning piece of kit. So get it. I know some people have quality concerns and stuff like that. Honestly, I have no quality concerns whatsoever. This is a lovely. There's no squeeze in those. Everything just feels good, tight, exactly the way it should be. The shifters, the clutch paddles, there's lovely weight and everything. So the GS wheel is definitely the one with the R9. That's the combo that I would go for. Anyway, that's a slight bit of a tangent, but if you are thinking of buying, do that. Also, do consider using the affiliate links in the description below, because that really helps out the channel if you do use those affiliate links. So that's greatly appreciated. So, long story short, really enjoy it, especially with a Formula wheel. I can't see anybody going wrong with it. It's an excellent first DD wheelbase. If you think that the R5 might not have enough power for you, or if you think that 280mm steering wheel is too small on it, I have no doubt that if you had a kind of a generic steering wheel and just got a MOZA quick release or any NRG steering wheel quick release will fit this. Then you'll have a lot more, because that'll be a lot lighter than the CS wheel. Just a wheel on its own that will work just fine. So one thing, when it's not connected, when there's no steering wheel connected, it searches for wireless steering wheels. The little blue LED flashes. It's not very bright, but it does make a slight clicking noise. And when you have headphones on and stuff like that, you're not going to hear it. If there's someone in your house, they might hear it. It's kind of like a I don't know. It's one of those, like what are those devices that check for the nuclear the reactive I can't even think of it, but it's kind of a clicky click 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 noise, and it's a little bit it's a little bit kind of annoying. So that's not very nice. So if you are running an aftermarket wheel, do take that into account as well. But for now, that's my first impressions of the MOZA R9. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Lawrence, and I'll chat to you later.